wait for when the landslide comes.
Listening to Game On DC, your home for local gaming and esports news in the DMV. Find the show on social media at Game On DC and by using the hashtag GoDC. Without further ado, here are your hosts, John and Joey.
What is up, DMV? It is a rushed Monday, as you can tell right now by looking at those amazing camera angles on Twitch. Joey, today was supposed to be our off day, but nonetheless, what is up, DMV? And welcome to Game On DC, the show dedicated to you, the gamers and esports fanatics, right here in the East Coast capital of esports. And it's fixed, just like that. My name is John Fiasco, bottom alongside Joey Courtside King McDermott. Joey, It is a Monday. It is an absolute Monday of Monday today. We have so much to talk about today. How are you feeling here Monday, the 25th of October, sir?
John, I'm exhausted, but I'm excited. There's a lot happening. It felt like we weren't sure what the offseason was going to bring to us, how long it would take for players to get signed. It feels like everything's happening this week. 2 new players for the Justice. We have a re-signing over at DC United. Some moves over on the WizDG camp as well. It feels like everyone's making moves.
Yeah, it just, we're sitting here talking about, okay, obviously we're going to do a show today because of the big news that broke yesterday. And then all of a sudden, just more news kept flowing from every single professional esports organization here in the DMV. It was nonstop. It was absolutely fantastic. And as the day went on, I just got more and more excited to talk about everything that's happening here tonight. But before we hop into what obviously you're here to listen and watch and discuss with us, first, we all have to remind you that all the fun happens here on Twitch. It's twitch.tv/OTN Media for all the live content for Game On DC, as well as the other amazing stuff that OTN Media broadcasts here. It's a lot like Level Up Live, and there's other fun stuff that happens here. Check out all the streamers here as well. So make sure you follow and sub there if you so choose. And we do have the podcast version of Game On DC available, not just on iTunes, not just on Google Play, not just on Spotify, not just on Stitcher, but pretty much you find yourself a podcast RSS feed, you look up Game On DC. We'll be there. Well, we never leave you stranded. We're always there for you. It's great. It's fantastic.
Except every other week.
Except every other week, unless the moon crash lands into the earth, because it feels like, that's what happened today almost. But Joey, obviously follow the show, Game On DC, Twitter, Instagram. I believe we're still on Facebook, but nobody else is on Facebook, so that's fine. And they're changing their name anyway soon. But nonetheless, make sure you follow Joey at Courtside King, myself at Fiasco. If you're watching here live on Twitch, they're above us. Level Up, they're below us. Here, they're above us. On your screen there on the podcast, it will be in the show notes for you below. Joey, it is a roller coaster every day. Let's go ahead and start with some of the light news. Lighter, meaning we're adding people, we're re-signing people. Let's start off with our good friends at the Washington Justice for the Overwatch League. First up, Joey, it is roster mania for Overwatch League. We're seeing a ton of movement throughout the entire league. Obviously, we're still waiting for the final roster, but we can report based upon what the Washington Justice have tweeted out that Vigilante and Happy are going to be joining the Washington Justice. Vigilante, coming from the contender scene, had a fantastic season last year in 2021 in the contender scene, will be joining as well. Happy coming over to the Justice as well. So far, you have to be happy with these pickups. I feel like they're two solid players joining a roster of, from what we can tell from the returning players, at least, because we know Tuba, Closer, Bebe, and Jerry, as of right now, are free agents. They may or may not come back. We don't know. But they are free agents at the moment. But to add Vigilante and Happy to the roster that we currently still have with players like Decay and Assassin, I feel like you have to be pretty happy with those adds.
Yeah, overall, for sure. I mean, Happy's a veteran talent coming in, someone who did very well in the Guangzhou Charge just over a year ago, and then with the Houston Outlaws last year. I didn't follow him as much in Houston, but with Guangzhou, he did phenomenal. I think he was one of the at least top 5 in damage over there. I had him in fantasy that year, so he did very, very well for my team. And he's a veteran. It's always great to bring veteran talents in. They help ground your roster. They help move the young players forward as well. And then over on Vigilante, it's the opposite. He's going to be your powerful rookie in a sense. You had Mag last year. You had Assassin. Both came out and did phenomenally well, making names for themselves. Sure, we struggled a little bit when we threw Bans into the mix, but overall, both of them very talented. Now Vigilante, another player from kind of that contender area, moving his way over as a unproven talent to a degree, now getting a chance at the main stage.
Absolutely. So again, that's Vigilante and Happy joining the Washington Justice. Still more moves to come, as really nobody knows what rosters are going to look like going into Overwatch 2. Again, just a friendly reminder, we're going from 6 starting players down to 5. We're losing a tank role in that lineup. So the way the game is played is going to be completely different going forward. And we as fans, we get to sit back and watch the chaos unfold as all these organizations try to figure out what in the world this game and league is going to look like here coming up in 2022. Joey, with that, let's go ahead and move down South Capitol Street to our good friends at Audi Field at DC United, who have re-signed EMLS Pro KingCJ, good friend of the show. KingCJ re-signs with DC United. Joey, this is year 3 for KingCJ. Just to run down a list of his accomplishments here, he's a U.S. national team FIFA player. Got caught up there in the soccer terminology. North American playoff champion, FIFA E World Cup 2021 grand finalist. Little asterisks there, unfortunately, due to the pandemic, that entire event got canceled, but nonetheless, KingCJ qualified, which is a major, major accomplishment. Again, a couple months ago, I believe it was in July, we spoke with KingCJ right before those announcements came out that those events were canceled, but definitely check out that interview. KingCJ is a fantastic person, an even better gamer. So, it's just one of those things where just unfortunately with the current world pandemic going on right now, those events were canceled, but nonetheless, a superstar talent re-signs with DC United.
Yeah, and to add another one to the list, I believe he was also the FIFA Nations Cup, if I remember correctly. So overall, yeah, he was qualifying for everything. Phenomenal big year. I think he ended up second in the standings overall. Floundered a little bit in playoffs. He came up in some tough matches, but still ended up, I believe, top 7, top 8. So overall, it's still a great place to be in. And he's been one of those players that's improved year over year as well. When you look at the overall standings, to continue to move up, to finish in second this year, again, not quite showing what he wanted to in the playoffs, but then he went on to qualify for all these world events, E-Nations Cup, FIFA E-World Cup. Unfortunately, they didn't happen this year, but I think he'll be back once again.
Absolutely. So KingCJ re-signing with DC United. Joey, we'll have to try to get him back on the show here. I feel like that's a pretty good reason to have him back on here with that major re-signing deal. And Joey, I don't know if you saw on his tweet, one of the major perks when he renegotiated his deal with DC United is paying for his tuition in full as well. I mean, that's some like next level negotiation there by KingCJ.
Yeah, and for those who follow League of Legends, that's on that Hoonie level of negotiation over there in the LCS. Yeah, that's big for CJ. I mean, getting the education paid for, putting that first as well. So he's performing in FIFA. He's continued to improve year over year. Same thing goes with his education. He wants to continue to keep that at the forefront, and to put that into his terms in the negotiation of the contract, I think is a great move from him.
Absolutely. So, Joey, with that, we're going to go ahead and move into the hot topic of the day. It was announced late last night, but nonetheless, late last night, we got a tweet from JBM announcing his retirement from the NBA 2K League. Joey, this is something that we have heard rumors about. This is something that Dave Fry mentioned in a Forbes article right after they won the championship here in 2021, that there was a possibility that JBM might be departing the team. We heard rumblings about, possibly going to college and then in the summertime playing for WizDG. There are a lot of rumors out there, but as of last night, those rumors are put to rest with the official announcement confirmed by the team today as well. The two-time defending champion, JBM, is retiring from the NBA 2K League.
Yeah, I mean, John, this is a hit for WizDG, for WizDG fans. I mean, he was an all-star player over there, the #1 overall pick, led him to 2 championships. But I mean, also the NBA 2K League as a whole. This is a player who came in and pretty much became a star the moment he stepped foot onto the virtual court. Absolute insane stuff coming from him, from the assists to the points to the ability to build 2 championship rosters along Coach Pat Crossan, the monumental sports organization behind him as well. So, I mean, JBM is just one of those players that, at least to me, kind of transcends that virtual court. He got it done on the court, a phenomenal roster around him as well. Very big credit to them as well. But I think he's just one of those players that shows that leadership. He's a phenomenal interview as well. We had him on the show at least once, maybe twice, and JBM just came through and did a very good job there, enlightening us on what goes on behind the scenes, talking about their run up to the championship for the second time around. It just feels like he's a class act, and it's a big loss for the league.
Yeah, it's a major loss for the league. I'm pulling up some of the other tweets here put out by some officials from WizDG. Head coach Pat Crossan had some great words to say. The golden standard has been set for the #1 pick. It was a pleasure watching you grow as a person and a player. Thank you, JBM, for everything as you move on to your next adventure. You'll always have a home at Wizards District Gaming. Joe, you touched on it a little bit here. I mean, for a 2-year career, again, to take all this into consideration, the league's 4 years old. He's been around for half of the league's existence. We haven't really had a major player like this retire in the 2K League, especially after setting historical standards with WizDG, going back to back. Like you said, he's the #1 overall draft pick in 2020. He's the 2021 Finals MVP. He was elected to the All-Star game this year in the first ever All-Star game. Thank you for season 4 for that finally happening. But nonetheless, I mean, he set a standard, and I completely agree with Pat, for what a #1 overall draft pick should do. He came in here and really, I'm not going to like take charge in the sense of like, he came in and he knew what he wanted to do. He wanted to come in and he wanted to win. Yes, he had a great cast around him. Dave Fry, one of the best big man, if not the best big man in the league, constantly consistent in the paint, cleaning up the glass, putting points on the boards, getting those big blocks. You have Nudini, who can pretty much play almost any position. It feels like the most winningest player in the entire league. He was able to shake off a major roster change in week 3 here in 2021 when B-Rich came in at shooting guard. And you have Just Awkward, who came into the league with them. He's, this is a team that was perfectly built by Pat Crossan and his big brain and everyone else there from Monumental Sports and Entertainment that put this team together. And JBM was the cornerstone on the offensive side. He truly was, if you will, the quarterback of this team on the floor. He was the floor general. He was the one dictating how everything went on the offensive side of the ball. And, whether it was, a 20-point game, a 30-point game, whether it was his 68-point extravaganza back in, I believe it was week 9, just had an absolute fantastic 2-year career, and there's no better way to go out on top than going back to back.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he got the job done. And I think I'd even expand on Pat's statement. Like, I think he mentioned number 1 overall picks. I would go beyond that.
Yeah.
This is what any player should be doing. Any player should be representing themselves the way that Jack did in the league. He came out, he got what he wanted to done. Now, everyone's not going to have the same level of roster that he did, but all your top 5 picks are probably going to have a good chance of building something. And maybe it doesn't happen in the first year. Maybe you don't run it like Jack did in his first year in the NBA 2K League, but you can do it at some point. You just got to build it up, and it's all about the team around you, continuing to be that example, continuing to put that work in, and that's exactly what JBM did.
Absolutely. What we're going to do here real quick, as soon as I can get it up there, we're going to play the video. We're going to keep it on silent, though, as we continue to discuss JBM here. But this is the video that WizDG put out there from his entire career, from the moment he was drafted first overall. I mean, when you have Ted Leonsis, the owner of the Wizards, the Capitals, the Mystics, at the I believe at the time, I think the Arena Football League was still around, 2 Arena Football League teams in Washington and Baltimore. I mean, this is a guy who is a serious power player in the world of sports. He has doubled down into the world of esports, really putting a lot of faith in the NBA2K League as well. And we saw the results. We saw what that passion and dedication does. And Mr. Leonsis had no problem like taking time out of his busy day to announce JBM was the first overall draft pick. I mean, that's a massive vote of confidence right there. In his first year, winning the championship in a really awkward season, a pandemic year, playing remote, not on the big stage. That was something JBM would not do until the finals this year in 2021 in Dallas, playing on stage in front of a semi-live audience, or just the workers in this sense. You nailed it. Like, if you are looking for a definition of what an esports athlete should be, it's JBM. It's Jack to a T. This is a guy that held himself responsible on the court and off the court, a massive team player. You talk to any of his teammates, they have nothing but positive things to say about him. This is exactly what you want to represent your organization like WizDG.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Have we gone through his full resume yet, John? Do you want to walk kind of through some of the stuff he accomplished during his 2 years in the league?
Yeah, I mean, we talked a little bit about, obviously back-to-back champion, finals MVP, all-star. I'm going to pull up some of his stats here, because I think the one thing that gets lost when people just look at stats is he's not going to put up those big, sexy numbers. He's not going to drop 48, 50 points a game. This is a guy who has no issue facilitating the ball around the court. And that was really his strength. He averaged almost a double-double when it came to points and assists. Just an absolute powerhouse. So first off, thank you, NBA2K League, for redoing your stats page. This is a lot more useful now. But it only gives me 2021 now, so I can't go back to 2020. But nonetheless, Joey,
we're making progress, though, NBA2K League. Slowly but surely. We're making moves.
But surely. So obviously he started every game. Even when he was sick, I can confirm that there were several games he played absolutely under the weather, still dropped over 20 points. The guy is absolutely insane. 23.99 points per game. We're going to round it up to 24. Why not? We're looking at, let's see here, a 46.5% three-point percentage from behind the arc, 72.5 from the line. That's okay. We might need to work on free throws a little bit. Nah, you're good. But nonetheless, assists, 9.7. Let's round that up to 10. So he's averaging a double-double, right? He has no problem passing the ball, and there have been times where he had 15, 16, 17 assists. JBM has no problem finding the open man and letting other players shine. And when JBM didn't have a good game, when he wasn't on his A game, and he was only maybe bringing 12, 13, 14 points to the table, he was able to find that hot hand. B-Rich played out of his mind, being thrown into that lineup in an off position in week 3, dropping double digits multiple times throughout the entire season and playoffs. Just Awkward had a 39-point game. He's known for his defense, Joey, and he drops 39 points. JBM facilitated that, found Just Awkward for the open shots, and Just Awkward made the best of that opportunity, just absolutely lit things up in his office there in the right corner of the basketball court. But I mean, these numbers, these stats for JBM, rank him as the 19th best player in 2021 in the regular season in terms of just overall stats. Now, if you're going to sit here and tell me that if we were to redraft, 18 teams would pass on JBM and the 19th team would pick him up, you're out of your mind. You are absolutely out of your mind. This is obviously a number one overall pick if the league was to do a complete redraft. JBM is consistent. He's not selfish. He's a true player. He's a true leader. And it's exactly the kind of player you want representing your organization.
And I think you hit on most of the stat things. The other thing is just that he improved moving into the playoffs. So regular season, he averaged 24.1 points, like you mentioned. And then you also have the assist coming in at 9.8. Moving to the playoffs, though, he bumped up to 27.9 points per game, as well as 12 assists. So the increase is not only moving from the regular season to the playoffs, but moving and continuing to get better as he goes on, continuing to feel that competitive drive. And that's something that's so inherent in Jack as a player, but you don't necessarily see that in so many other players, whether it be esports or sports, just that increased really momentum that they can carry from the regular season to the playoffs. And it just helps on and off the court as a leadership as well.
So again, JBM retiring from the NBA2K League, going off to college. We wish him the best there, obviously, Joey, but we do have to turn our attention now to what comes next. If you're head coach Pat Crossan, if you're Monumental and you're sitting here going, wow, we just lost our 2021 finals MVP. I hate to break it to everyone. WizDG is not going to get the number one overall pick going into 2022. It's not going to happen. Not when you're the champion. It doesn't work that way. But yeah, how do you replace a player like JBM? Obviously, several wild cards. We still have to go through the combine. We have to see who qualifies, and we have to see which players get retained. So two big wild cards for WizDG going forward in the process of trying to replace JBM. Now, Joey, I'm going to throw a third wild card in there real quick. B-Rich is a point guard by trade. That's how he qualified for the 2K League. He played out of his mind during his stint as a shooting guard. Do we think his play is enough to give him a chance for that starting point guard position, or are they going to look to find that diamond in the rough in the combine, or find a player that wasn't retained by one of the other teams?
I mean, John, it's tough to say. It's so early on at this point. I mean, one of the advantages with B-Rich is he knows the schemes, he knows the system, he knows a lot of the guys on the team. So you do kind of have those inherent skills that he does come in with. At the same point, I mean, you look at the history of WizDG here, they've done pretty darn well in that area. I mean, JBM as a pickup obviously proved himself. 2 championships, came home to DC. So I think it really depends on what the combine's looking like. If it looks strong in point guards, and it also kind of depends on where the pick ends up falling. But if it's strong in point guards, if the pick is reasonable, I think WizDG might go for it. Depending on how that looks, maybe you do bring B-Rich back once again and put him back to that native position.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, I firmly believe it. A little too early to kind of speculate. But it's one of those things where, fans of this team, not just here in the DMV, but all across the nation and the world that watch the 2K League, we're seeing a lot of players react. Chalk from the Nets even mentioned, Chalk thinks JBM will come back. Chalk thinks that this is like maybe a 1-year hiatus and he'll re-enter into the draft, which if he does, that would be absolutely insane. And then we have to talk about, does WizDG have the rights to his re-entry, or is he a free agent, free grab for all in the draft?
I don't see him coming back. I don't see it.
I don't think he would, but sometimes maybe you miss it a little bit. But at the same time, it is a grind. I think that's something else that a lot of people tend to forget. Yes, it's a video game, but at the same time, it is a grind. The amount of hours and time they put into practice, into film study, into review, the team meetings. I mean, head coach Pat Crossan runs a very tight ship, very, very tight ship there. And, it's one of those things where it's very easy from an outside perspective to take for granted how much time and effort these players put into their craft, how much time and effort Pat Crossan and the rest of his team at MSC put into preparing a game plan, getting together an idea and a strategy going forward to compete in the premier 2K league anywhere in the world. It's backed by the NBA. I mean, it is not for the weak of heart, and we see that time in and time out. With with, other teams really struggling. Like take, for example, the Raptors. Toronto struggled like crazy this year after coming off of a perfect season last year. And they hardly had any turnover on their roster. That's something that can definitely happen. You have to evolve with the game as it comes out. And that's something that I felt like in 2021, WizDG had perfected. They figured out that game. Obviously, NBA 2K 2022 is a completely different style game. Joey, you and I have played it a little bit. There's a reason we're not in the league. But regardless, a lot of the pros enjoy what 2022 has to offer in that game style. So it will be really unique to see what happens. But yeah, I agree with you, Joey. I don't think JBM would come back as a player. Maybe down the road, maybe he comes back as a coach. Maybe he comes back involved in an organization. I could definitely see that happening. But I think as a player, what else is there for him to do? He's gone back-to-back. He's won a finals MVP. He's an all-star. 2 years in the league, 2 championships. I mean, I don't think you could ask for anything more.
No, absolutely not. And I'm with you there. I could see him coming back, even like a team director role, I think could be a possibility, but at least as a player, unless we're later down the line going to have some like Netflix documentary, The Last Dance JBM status.
I like it.
I don't know if I see it. Like, and we're back, I think.
Oh, yep, there you are. Okay.
Yeah, we're back.
Yeah, you're good.
I like the little finger I got that time. Yeah, sorry guys. There's like a big storm outside, so I don't know what's going to happen over here.
Yeah.
We're blinking a little bit, but we haven't lost power yet. But overall, yeah, I think if he comes back, it's going to be in a different role. I just don't see him being as resolute as he is making this decision. He's at the top of the world in a sense of the NBA 2K League. The roster for next year could be phenomenal again. So to step away where he's stepping away, I feel like he's at the peak of the mountain and he's saying, I'm ready for something new. I'm ready for my next test. Maybe eventually he comes back as a player, maybe in a different role. But at least for now, I mean, I like that Chalk wants that rivalry to continue. I just think it might be continuing on the online servers and not the NBA 2K servers.
100% agree. Now, this doesn't mean he's going to be putting down the sticks forever. He's probably still going to be playing 2K in his free time. I mean, Joey, I remember when we were in college, we played video games quite a bit. I know I should have been studying sometimes, but I played video games instead. But the one big thing that is coming up next that WizDG now have to figure out real quick, and that's who they're going to protect from the upcoming expansion draft. Team Ducks, the newest team based out of Mexico City, joins the league. They're the newest member, and they have their expansion draft coming up. They get 3 picks. And prior to this weekend's news, we firmly believed it to be JBM and Dayfry protected 100% going into it. Now with JBM retiring, that adds a little wrinkle into the entire situation now. You and I both believed that Just Awkward would have been selected by Team Ducks because at the end of the day, defense wins championships. We saw that from WizDG 2 years in a row. The best defense in the league, and it paid off. Now that you have that opening spot, now you have to ask yourself, do we protect Just Awkward? Do we protect the winningest player in the NBA 2K League in Nudini? I feel like that's a big question. And honestly, Joey, we talked about it a little bit earlier today. I think we say we protect Just Awkward. I really don't think Team Ducks is going to go after a player like Nudini, even though he is like a jack of all trades. He can play almost every position. He's a very talented player. Big, and also, side note real quick, huge congratulations to Nudini. Just got married in the off season. So not only does he have 2 rings from the 2K League, he now has a 3rd ring. Big congratulations to Nudini on his marriage in the off season as well. And let's see if we can get ring 4 next year. But hey, but yes, so I do think Just Awkward is going to be that player that gets protected along with Dayfry now going forward. Because I feel like Be Rich, Be Rich, Nudini, and LeBron, I feel like there's a small chance that they would be selected by Team Ducks going forward, where a Just Awkward would have been someone you could build a defense around.
Yeah, for sure. And no discredit to the other players. Like everyone on this squad is talented. A number of them running 2 league championships back to back. But when you look at it overall, no one's going to get rid of Dayfry. He would fit on any roster in the league, pretty much regardless of who you have at his position. Just Awkward. I mean, he was Defensive Player of the Year as well, right? Didn't he win that award? So that's another huge thing to bring in. You've mentioned he can drop points when he needs to, but typically playing that lock role, we've heard it in every sport. It applies to a lot of esports as well. Defense wins championships. So I think if you're WizDG in this situation, if you're holding down 2, it's Dave Fry and just awkward for sure.
And WizDG fans, there's a strong possibility that those might be the only 2 returning players from this championship team. I mean, again, there's a lot of wild cards out there. We don't know who's going to be retained, who's not going to be retained from other teams. We don't know who's going to qualify through the combine. There's a lot of question marks out there, but we have to come to realization that there is a real chance that the 2 protected players might be the only ones coming back, because obviously we don't know what the strategy is going to be going forward for WizDG going into the new game of 2K 2022. So there's just a lot of question marks, but nonetheless, Joey, it came as a little bit of a shock last night around 9:30, when JBM tweeted it out that he is putting the controller down and retiring from the NBA2K League.
Now, the other thing is, like, at least to my knowledge, he can still play in all the other NBA 2K tournaments, correct? Like, I don't think there's any kind of exclusivity agreement that if he retires from the league, he can't play in those, right?
So he can play in the independent like tournaments and everything. I don't know if he can play in anything NBA 2K League related,
right?
But yeah, I feel like the I don't want to call it the amateur scene, like the semi-pro scene, if you will. I believe he can still participate in that. Actually, in the off season, a lot of pros participate in a lot of those off season tournaments as well. So I believe that would still be wide open.
Yeah, I mean, even during the season, I feel like some of them, to a degree, are playing still. So yeah, I think that's one way. Like, if he wants to stay fresh and continue to maybe look at a return to the league, whether it be a player role or a different role, that could be one way to continue up with that as well. As well as keep touch with your boys. I mean, I could definitely see JPM competing on that level. But overall, John, I think we've touched on it quite a bit. It is a big loss to WizDG, and we're not going to downplay that at all. He was extremely talented, as well as to the NBA 2K League. I mean, this is a league that's still looking to grow. It's only in its 4th year, like John mentioned, and it's continuing to find his legs, and JBM was one of those huge faces of the league, so they're going to have to try to find a way to replace him as well.
Definitely the GOAT so far of the league, just playing out of his mind. JBM, we're going to miss you here in the DMV. Obviously, open door policy. Whenever you want to come on Game on DC, you can always come back on here. We can talk NBA 2K League. We could talk about anything DMV, gaming, esports, whatever it feels like. But again, JBM announcing his retirement from the NBA 2K League yesterday, confirmed by the team today. Definitely big shoes to fill here going forward. But Joey, I think that's a pretty good impromptu, random, sporadic game on DC that, it was supposed to be our off week. But you gotta love the off season where anything can happen, it feels like. And that's exactly what happened this weekend and today. So we do have all of those. I'm trying to play the outro music, and all of a sudden it cut out. It was. There we go. Okay, there. It's back now. Bluetooth. You gotta love technology. But yes, nonetheless, Joey, it turned out to be a full episode, and we couldn't be more happy to have a full episode here. But just to tease it a little bit, Joey, we do have a guest coming on next week on the 1st of November. Who's joining us next week?
That is going to be Andrew from MSE. So coming on, maybe we'll touch on JBM a little bit over there or some of those future WizDG plans, but we'll be excited to have him on the show.
Absolutely. But for now, that will do it for this week's episode of Game on DC. If you do enjoy listening to Game on DC, would love to hear from you. Leave us a review on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher, or wherever your podcatcher of choice is located. We would love to hear from you. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us on social media to keep up with all the gaming and esports news here in the DMV. Joey, where can our listeners go to follow Game on DC?
Absolutely. DMV listeners, head on over to Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram and find us at Game on DC. Additionally, you can also use the hashtag GoDC. We check that regularly as well. And last but not least, if you want to find these show on Twitch or YouTube, twitch.tv/OTN Media. And also the same thing over on YouTube. Unfortunately, we don't have the fancy vanity URL, but if you search OTN Media, we'll pop right up.
There you go. All right. Make sure you tune in next week, Monday, November 1st, 8 p.m. Eastern, as always, as we continue to cover the esports news here in the DMV. Make sure you do your ears and eyes a favor. Hit that sub and follow button here on Twitch and your podcatcher of choice. to know when the next episode of Game on DC is ready for your entertainment pleasures. We'll catch you all on Monday. Enjoy the rest of your week. And as always,
Game on, DC.